Garrett, and I almost fell down a rabbit hole. I was just about to do something, and I looked at the clock, and I thought, oh, no, and here I am. So I want to talk to you and do something with you this morning that's a little different. And I'm really excited because I want to see what happens. So first of all, a little scratchy throat, sip. Before I begin, I want to say thank you again to all the people who are tuning in to these surprise Sunday ABCASTs. I can't believe I just fling them out there and people are watching. So that either tells me that you have nothing to do on Sundays, or it's an interesting idea to just spring things on you. And that may lead to all kinds of trouble, and I can't wait. Can you? Anyway, for those of you just joining me, once upon a time, a long time ago in a far off land, I was a mom on You Can't Do That on Television. I was also 3 of the original Care Bears, and I involved myself right up to here. And I don't know, I think I was maybe 8 different voice characters on The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin. I did Ellie Patterson on For Better or For Worse, and I think I was a duck in Charlotte's Web, and then of course, let's not forget Dennis the Menace, and a bunch of other small things that I just kind of wandered into and voiced and then walked away from. While I was doing that, at the same time, alongside You Can't Do That on Television, I was also doing morning drive radio. And I discovered a very interesting thing. I know, right? Pause and think about that. Get up at 4 in the morning to be artfully clever at 5, finish that, go home, fall down, change the clothes, rush off and do some voice work in commercials and cartoons, and then show up at 5 o'clock for the read-through on You Can't Do That on Television. And then, oh, by the way, tape the show on the weekends. It was a very busy time. So one of the things that I learned, excuse me, I'm just going to do this. One of the things that I learned in doing radio, because it's live, but it's invisible, right? You're just the voice in someone's head, alongside competing with the loop tape inside people's heads. And what I discovered that was really quite interesting is that when you plant a seed the right way, and it's just audio, so people are, they've disconnected their brain, they're on autopilot doing the thing they're doing, ironing or cooking or driving, whatever. And their brain, their other part of their brain is listening and getting in step with what's going on coming in through the audio channels. And sometimes, depending on how you set a thing or what you set a thing in conjunction with, you triggered people in completely different ways. And it fascinated me. And so one of the things that I wanted to start working on now, so this is ABCAST 382. And I know it's a random number, but there we are. What I wanted to start doing was getting your feedback personally. More than, I mean, obviously we love the comments. I love it when you guys climb on and we're all talking together. And it's really great. And there's good exchanges and I can see what's happening and I can answer you. This other thing I want to try today is an exercise in getting you involved in your own way. So I'm going to ask you the question first, and then I'm going to explain why I want to do it. Okay. So the question is this: would you please, in between 1 and 5 words, like just really short, would you use a word? Would you write down a word? Would you share it with us that triggers the feeling of happy in your head? So not, well, when I go for a walk, if you say forest, or if you say tennis, or if you say chocolate, or if you say something that is an immediate trigger word that you equate to happy. And so that's the question I'm putting out there. That's the theme today. In 1 to 5 words, share your definition, your meaning that equals happy. All right. So we'll leave that out there and I'll refer to it a couple of times. All right. Now I want to talk to you about why I'm doing that. So hang on a second. I have been promising for months, actually a couple of years now, since I came back from my away time, that I was working up to something really big, something really fun, something really exciting, something really game changing, and that I want you involved. And that, in fact, that's if you see a notice from me, what's this show about? What's really going on? We're leaning into something big, and we want you involved, because without you, it's a rehearsal, right? It's I'm only part of the event. I'm only part of the show. I'm the give, you're the absorb, you're the translate and give back, and it's like a wonderful to and fro. This is what I want us to try. I want us to try an experiment that I used to do as a small child. And I didn't know I was doing it. I was just finding a way to ground myself, to anchor myself. And over the years, I realized that other people do it, but they don't do it intentionally. But good morning, Freddie. Oh, it's nice to hear from you. It's nice to see you. So I don't know if you saw my statement. What I want people to do is think of a word that is the equal to happy. How happy feels to you, give me another word. All right, that's the exercise this morning. So I'll give you a minute to think about that, because you're so quick and you're so smart. Now, and there, by the way, there's no right word. If it's your word, it's perfect. That's how this works. So here's what used to happen to me when I was a very little kid. We would move, and I didn't comprehend it. I didn't understand the slightest thing about it, because very small child. And because I was an only child, and we never stayed anywhere for long, I didn't have a chance to ask other kids if this happened to them too, until much later, until I was in my mid-teens, early teens. So what I would do when things felt upside down, everything was different. Yippee. All right. I love it. Thank you, Freddie. So I'm going to write this down. YIPPEE. I love that. Okay, that equates to happy. I'll get back to it in a second. So the backstory here is this. When I was very young, I didn't realize until, well, it took me a long time, it took me years and years to realize that I would come home, or I would come into the room, I would come downstairs from my bedroom or inside from outside playing, and everything would be different. Everything, the feeling in the room, the energy in the room, the conversation in the room, the way my parents would smile at me and nod at me and hug me, but they weren't really present. A lot like Mom on You Can't Do That on Television. That's where I got her quality from. What's that, dear? Oh, that's nice, dear. Like that. And it would be different. I would be in the house, I would go out, or I would be upstairs, or I'd be whatever. I would come in, and it would be different. Everything would be distracted. Everything would be not complete. And I apparently, because I was told this many years later, that apparently I would come in and I would stand there and I would just kind of let that wash over me. And then I would say, is everything going to be all right? Is everything okay? And my parents would, I can hear them, I can remember them. They would laugh and say, of course, sweetie, and they'd hug me and then kind of, push me aside. Here, go play with this, and do that. Mommy and daddy have something to do. But it was a different kind of to do. It was a different way they were saying it. And what I didn't understand was that they had been told, they had just been notified that we were moving. And so while they were physically here, they were already mentally and energetically and emotionally focused on getting ready for the move, preparing. That normal is now a transition place. Normal is in preparation for. Normal is not just get up, make breakfast, go about the day. We're doing that, but we're only doing it halfway because the other half is getting ready for the transition, for the leap. Because you don't just go from here automatically to there. We didn't have beam me up, Scotty, in those days. And so there was a trajectory that we were going to have to cross. And I wasn't aware of it. I can't even remember actively seeing boxes until probably 8 or 9 years old. Before that, all I knew was that everything was out of sync in some way. And so what I did, without understanding what I was doing, is, so how it felt was, I'm a little boat, right? I'm a little boat and I'm tethered to a dock, and the dock is my parents, and the dock is my house, and the dock is my life. And when these moments would happen, I would feel that my rope came loose and that I wasn't tethered to anything. I didn't have a little engine going. I wasn't getting ready to do something. So I felt like I was drifting, like I didn't have anything keeping me connected. So what I would do is I would find something to anchor on. I would connect myself to something familiar, something, and familiar, of course, in our survivor brain, familiar equals safe. So I would connect to something and hang on to it. I would make sure that anytime I had to look at things, I could always see whatever that was. So if all of a sudden there were boxes in a room that I became aware of, as I said, in later years, I would have whatever my thing was. When I move now, I can't go to sleep if in my bedroom, within my line of sight, there are boxes. I can have a pile of things over here on the other side of my desk that I can't see. And as long as I can't see them, I feel grounded. If I can see them, part of me feels like the rope is coming undone. And I've asked a lot of people about this over the years, and every single one of them has gone, huh, because they do that too. But exactly like me, they never put a name to it. They never put a connection to it. They just found themselves hanging on to things. If you're getting ready to, for instance, the seasons are changing. Okay, what you end up doing is buying more of your comfort foods to get you through the transition. You try to put all your summer stuff away, but you leave 2 or 3 out because you know that as soon as it's right after it's only 10 degrees, it's going to be 40 degrees because Mother Nature has no idea. So we always try to keep one foot, one part of our self, part of our energy, our emotions, anchored to something. So in developing Pivotry in motion, in creating this concept that I can and have and do guide people through their changing chapters, their shifts in what they care about, the times that come gradually to a close as other times begin. And for all of us, that is really unsettling. It can be really scary. It can make us, go under the covers, go off the radar, hunker down. But eventually we have to come back out for air. We have to be involved in what's going on in our lives. So this hunkering down we do is in that old fight, flight, freeze, hide. The hunkering down is freeze. The hunkering down is make no sudden noises or moves, and maybe all this stuff won't affect me. Well, as we grow up, we can't freeze forever. we end up in a really unhappy, unproductive state that the psychiatrists and therapists have started to call functional freeze. And that is basically living zombie, walking through the motions on autopilot, brain fog, all these words that we're hearing today. This is us feeling untethered, and we don't know how to ground ourselves. We don't know how to find an anchor point because no one ever taught us. If we stumble on it by accident, awesome. But I can tell you that a helpful anchor point isn't ice cream in the freezer. I can tell you that a helpful anchor point isn't endless scrolling on the phone, looking at social media. That's avoidance. It's not helpful, because all that happens is we get duller and duller and duller, and we can't snap out of it. So this process that I've come up with, this idea of finding a word. And so, Freddie, bless your heart, when I said, Freddie, between 1 and 5 words, come up with something that in your head equals happy. And the word you gave me was yippee. And whether you say it like a cowboy, whether you say it sarcastically, oh, yippee, whatever it is you say, how you say it, it's an automatic brain link to happy. Automatic. So if you're frustrated, if you're tired, if you're confused, if you feel like you've been forgotten, if you're overworking, pushing yourself without realizing it, or you just feel that you can't stop because there's just too much to do, what we need to do, remember my 5-finger breathing exercise, my 30-second breathing exercise, where you start with one index finger and one hand, and you trace all the way along all the fingers of your other hand. When you get to the end, you go back, right? And then when you've done it all the way back to the inside bottom of your thumb, you switch hands, right? And you do it here and you start again. And the reason you do it is because it's a break. It allows you to breathe. You don't have to do anything special, but it allows you to take a break, to disconnect to everything else that's going on. Well, in this exercise, the one thing you add is that every time you reach the top of a finger, if we're using Freddie's word, every time you reach the top of a finger, you say, yippee, 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 yippee. And then you do it on the other hand. And what you're doing is you're anchoring in your head, in your energy, in your emotions, in your whole body, that it is okay to laugh. It is okay to try something different. Good morning, Matthew. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. It's okay to give yourself a grounding. It's giving yourself an anchor, giving yourself a feeling that you are connected to happy. It may be a distraction with everything going around you, but if you give yourself 30 seconds to do yippee, yippee, it starts to feel like a roller coaster. Yippee. It starts to feel like cotton candy. Yippee. Yippee. And you go back. It gives you, because this is Freddie's word for happy, it gives you the association with, the feeling of, the smell of, the taste of happy. And when you're not feeling happy, when life is a little too complicated, when we have overextended ourselves, this is the simple win. This is the shortcut. This is the reset, the recalibrate, the breathe in and out and say, now then, where were we? Good morning, Mother dear. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. Good morning, Daniel. So Guys, what I've asked Freddie to do, and now Matthew, it's your turn, and Daniel, it's your turn. I want you to come up with a word, between 1 and 5 words that equal happy for you. There's no wrong answer. So whatever the word is, if you think of happy, if you think of how you feel when you're happy, there's a word that pops into your head. I want to know what that word is. Okay, so Matthew, you're up. Daniel, you're up. I want to see your word so I can take you through it the way I did with Freddie's word. So while I wait for your words, this is what I want to say to you. Today, when you talk to a therapist, when you talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, what I am describing for us in simple language that is easy to work with and play with. And it's going to form more of these much more interactive videos from now on. I want us participating in this instead of me talking and you commenting. I want you less spectator and more participant, okay? So how this works is this. The therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist defines what I'm talking about as our emotional baseline. I'm going to explain this to you so that it makes sense. If you go for a fitness test, because everybody is different, a lot of us are the same in many ways, but each one of us is a completely unique creature. So every value test that is done has to be anchored in something we can understand, we can relate to. Okay, so when you go to a fitness exam, when you go for your checkup and they say, I think we want to see you do a fitness exam, what they want to know is what your heart rate is, what your breathing rate is, what your temperature is when you're just normal, just standing, just sitting. They give you something normal to do, nothing exciting, nothing different, nothing crazy. They give you something to do. And as you're doing it, they test your vitals. They test your blood pressure. They test your heart rate. They test your breathing. They test your temperature, all the normals. And they write those numbers down. And then they give you a stress test of some kind. They either give you an actual test to write with a time, or they'll put you on a treadmill and say, what I want you to do is we're going to gradually speed you up. It's only going to take this long. And so you do that. And as you do it, they are monitoring how your body is managing the changes in what is happening to you and around you. Emotional baseline. And how they define that is how you are when everything is your normal with no outside influence that you're aware of. So you wake up, you're lying there in bed, you're comfortable, you don't immediately have to go to the bathroom, nothing hurts, the bed is nice and warm, or it's nice and cool, the pillow is exactly right. Okay, how do you feel? Is it a yippee? Are you basically happy? Are you basically good? Is it basically, ah? What are the words that you would automatically say or smile at or nod at if you heard them or said them in that moment? That's your emotional baseline. That's your normal. My normal, when I was a very young child, was just doing whatever little kids do with no idea that there was anything else going to happen today, except suddenly I would realize that I was hungry and I would come in and I'd say, I'm hungry. And somebody would give me something to eat, or they'd tell me to wait 10 minutes. That's my emotional baseline. If I went outside and there was something different, something scary or something funny or something exciting, my emotional baseline would change because something outside me was triggering me to respond. Or if it was frightening, scary, confusing, trigger me to react, trigger me to hunker down. And that would change my emotions. that would shift me into a different gear. Does that make sense? Nod once for yes. Now, the reason I'm saying this to you is that this path that I'm on, this helping you see who you are and how you are and where you are and why and what you feel like doing about it. This is a career path that a lot of people are on. A lot of people are reaching out and saying, allow me to be your guide, allow me to be your coach, allow me to be your mentor, allow me to be your motivator. And what I have said from the beginning is that I am that, and yet I'm not that. I'm something hybrid. I'm more than that. And here's how I'm different. First of all, a lot of you know me as a mom. You think of me as somebody who you can turn to. Matthew says, "Good morning, mother dear." And it's fabulous. And some of you who grew up with me as a Care Bear, as 3 Care Bears, you think of me as somebody who cares a lot because I lived in the land of Care-a-Lot. And Care Bears care. And so you think of me that way. If you love Teddy Ruxpin, you think of me as all those characters. And all of those characters, Ellie Patterson and For Better or For Worse, all of those characters contribute to you and your level of feel good. When our TV show came on and you were a latchkey kid, you could turn on the TV and I was your other mother. You could watch me. You could hang out with the prevert kids. You could be in the bus with them with Snake Eyes driving. You could be in the dungeon. You could be with you could be at the firing squad. You could be anywhere at Barth's Burgery. You could be anywhere just by turning on the TV. That gave you your grounding. That gave you your emotional, energetic, mental anchor. That gave you the equivalent of your happy and safe. So what I'm asking now with you as a first exercise, this is episode 382, so we've done 381 to get you warmed up to the idea that we're actually in this together. I want you to tell me what your normal, warm, fuzzy is. What does happy mean? Freddie said, yippee. All right. Matthew, what does happy mean? Daniel, what does happy mean? Give me your word that you associate with happy. Can be anything because it's your word. And the reason we're going to do that is so that we can all begin to understand that happy means different things to different people. It means that while we are all the same, we all want the same things. What we really want are the same outcomes. How we get them is partly created by what those outcomes look like, feel like, sound like, taste like, smell like. Once we know and we can understand each other, this language that we're creating together, it means that we can be together in reaching happy. We can be together in reaching excitement. We can be together in reaching the goal, whatever the goal is, because we understand each other, because the words actually make sense. Happy is a vague word. It can be defined, if there's a million people, it can be defined a million ways, as we're going to find out, because this is just the first day. What we want to do is to fix 2 things. The first thing is we want to fix this feeling we have that nobody can really see us. Nobody can really hear us. Nobody can really get us. And the more frantic we are, the busier we are, the more tired or confused we are, the scarier that is. Because we humans are not solo creatures. We are tribal. We are meant to live together and interact with each other and support each other, strength in numbers. That's who we are. And if we can't get that sense that somebody understands us, gets us, we feel like outcasts. We feel like we don't belong. And that's a scary, lonely feeling to have. And when we have these conversations about, well, it happened for me when, okay, that's the beginning point on the map. And it's important to know that we all have a beginning point on the map. But it really isn't important. Telling that story over and over and over again isn't really important. What is important is understanding that when we feel uncertain, when we feel lost, when we feel unimportant, when we feel abandoned, set adrift, that we're not alone, that somebody understands how that feels, that there is somebody, there are many somebodies saying, I got you, you got me, we got this. And how we get there is by understanding each other, finding better words that make sense. When I bump into people in an elevator or on the street, and people in a grocery store, how are you? Fine, and you? Okay, that doesn't mean anything. It means I made a noise and they made a noise. They heard me and they made a noise back. They're not listening, and I haven't said anything that allows them to say anything real. What I do now, I've been doing it for a few years, and it's amazing the reaction I get. When I see somebody walking into my sphere, I say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your day going? And they stop, because nobody ever says that. On a scale of 1 to 10, I don't know, it's a 4, I guess. A 4? Oh my gosh, do you need a hug? And they laugh. No, I'm good. Okay, well, virtual hug. There you go. Boost it up to a 5, at least. Get halfway. And they say, yeah, thanks. I've shifted them. I've nudged them from I'm all alone and it's not working. If they say, how's my day? Actually, it's an 8. Wow, an 8. All right, then. Is that contagious? Could we rub some of that off? I'm creating a conversation. The kind of conversation I'm creating is a connection. When you connect, when you really connect to people, when you can look them in the eye, when you can get their full attention for just that moment, and they realize that you hear them, that you see them, that you are telling them, I want to know you. I want you to know me. That's a game changer. We're not alone anymore. Even if it's still a 4, I'm not alone. If I'm a 4 and you're an 8, maybe some of your 8 can rub off on me and then I'll be a 6. That's what it's supposed to be. And we've never been told that clearly, and we've never been given that opportunity to try it. That's why I'm doing it, because this is part of how I am bringing connection, engagement, nurturing, and transformation together to create a different recipe. What I'm bringing is not mentoring. What I'm bringing is not motivating. What I'm bringing is not navigating. What I'm bringing is not coaching or guiding. I'm nurturing. Inside nurturing is all those other things. But I am allowed, if I had to look like that forever and a day, if I had to sound like a Care Bear forever and a day, then I'm allowed to be the nurturer. I'm allowed to be the nurturer who navigates. I'm allowed to be the nurturer who guides and comforts and supports and mentors. I'm allowed to add that layer, that special layer that nobody else has. because I am officially Nickelodeon Television's #1 TV mom. I'm allowed to be the nurturer. And I'm navigating us through and out from the loneliness and the confusion and the I don't know and the freeze and the I'll wait till this passes. I'm guiding us out of nobody cares, why should I? And this layer that I'm bringing that nobody else is qualified to bring, I guarantee you, is the cherry on the icing on the cake of our transformation. I have been doing this without really having a name for it pretty much my whole life. So you might say I've been to all the rehearsals. And a friend of mine, a very, very talented friend of mine the other day said, you know, what you do is an art form. What you do is, and an art form requires practice, because you can have a gift, but if you don't practice it, it doesn't get more defined and refined and polished. And she said, you practice all the time, every day. Because all the time, every day, I was this child of the military who wanted to make sure that while I was in flight, in transition, in arc, from this home to this home, I felt safe. I felt anchored. I felt seen and heard and valued. People weren't just absent-mindedly patting me on the head and saying, it's going to be fine, dear. They were looking me in the eye and they were saying, we got this. Let's go get a cookie. Let's go get a piece of carrot. And that way I never felt set adrift. I felt like I was part of, essential to. And when I felt that way, when I learned to yippee, 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 and I found myself breathing differently, and I found myself smiling the way I smiled at the things that make me happy, I knew I was okay. I had pulled myself away from the external that was scary, and I was reconnecting with me, with my version of happy. There's a concept called flow, and it's part of what I teach. It's part of what I help people get back in tune with. Flow is a state in which external confusion, thinking far forward, thinking, focusing back, is not driving the bus. If we are playing chess, if we are doing something that is a complete fascination, and when I was at Fanaticon, the Comic-Con event a couple of weeks ago, there is no time or room in my head to think about anything other than this moment when these people are here, and this moment when that's going on there, and how can I integrate myself into that and improve it, elevate it, make it sparkle. What can I bring is my total focus for that whole day. Before that day begins, at 15 minutes to the moment, I stop doing what I've been doing. I go and change, I reset, I take a deep breath, and it's time. It's time to be completely present, completely now, completely with the moment. And when I am there, while the moment involves the outside doesn't drive my bus. I am driving my bus in the moment, in the external world. I am shaping the ripple effect around my boat that gets all the other little boats and all the other energies bobbing together in sync. That's what I do. So as my program, so I'm going to be doing 3 things, and I know you're going to love them. And the reason I was doing the Sunday surprise ABCAST was to explain to people, to speakers services, speakers agencies, speakers bureaus, You've never had a speaker like me. You've never had somebody who says when she walks on stage, but enough about me. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about where we are and how you're feeling. And why I'm here is about that. I have a topic, but the whole time I'm with you, I'm going to adapt the topic so that it reflects how you feel about it. It's interactive when I speak. I go up and I say, yes, this is my story. This is what happened. That's so we all know where it began. That's just that point on the map. What I also say is, who here has ever wondered this? Who here has ever wondered that? And the thing I do right at the beginning, after I say this is about you, I say, I'm going to tell you the two most important things you're going to hear from me today. The first one is I'm going to tell you where the bathrooms are. And then I tell them where the bathrooms are. And then I say, and the second most important, and they all laugh. I say, if you're over 30, you want to know where the bathroom is. That's all there is to it. And then I say the second funny thing, which is, and now the one thing you want to know is how long I'm going to talk before you can go and use the bathroom. And the answer is 15 minutes, starting now. And everybody laughs again. And what I have created in doing that is I have given this moment back to you. I have told you that I am aware of how we all feel. And I have said to you, I got you. You got me. And we got this. And the entire mood of the room changes instantly and permanently. Because I understand what it feels like to be the outsider stepping for the first time in and not knowing where my house is or where the bathroom is. I know what it's like to feel that I somehow got set apart from my tribe. Everywhere I go, I create the joy of tribe. Everywhere, all the time. Even in an elevator, in a 30-second conversation, for that 30 seconds when we're rating our day, we're a tribe. We may only be a tribe of 2 or 3, but we're a tribe. And we remember that again. So the first thing I'm doing as a speaker, talking to speakers agencies, is I'm telling you what you have and what you do needs a facelift, needs an uplift, needs a reset. What you need is someone dynamic who has spoken to thousands of people to go in and shake things up. And the worst thing you can possibly do is say, well, try you once and see. I mean, I know the absolute worst thing is to say no and hang up, but that's just silly. Why would you do that? Every job I've ever had, I have auditioned for. Fine. Audition me. Put me in front of some people. Let me prove it to you. That's the first group. The second group that I reached out to are the event planners. And again, the reason I reached out to them is because people who want an event, need an event, don't know how to create an event, need somebody who does, and they go to them. I have produced, created, designed, executed events for almost as long as I have been allowed to vote. Why have I done it? Because I couldn't find an event that was the right fit for me, so I made my own. And the rave reviews I get are off the charts. What am I doing when I create the event? The same thing I'm doing when I'm speaking. I'm shifting the game. I'm turning it upside down, the way my life was upended as a child. All the way through it, I'm saying, this is for you. You're going to love this, because life is not a spectator sport. We were meant to be in the game, playing the game, changing the game. So the events that I help people build have a unique quality to them that is almost impossible to duplicate if you don't have the little bit of mischief and magic that lives in my brain. If you don't have the years and years and years of practice that I bring. So I don't want to compete with event planners. I want to come in and say, show me what you're doing. What about this? Have you asked the client that? I'm like the Red Adair. You remember Red Adair was the guy who would put out oil well fires? He didn't come and maintain your oil well. He didn't put that guy out of a job. They just flew him in and he fixed a problem and went away. And that's who I am. I am your wake them up, shake them up, make them glad they came. That's the special ingredient that I bring when an event planner says, come in and talk. Tell me what you think about this. And I do. And then they say sometimes, do you want to help us execute it? Sure. What time is it? What day is it? Yeah, I can do that. And I do. However, the real group I'm working with is you. And by that, I mean everyone. Forget the job you have. Forget the function you have. Forget the hat you wear. The job, the function, and the hat are the things we do to put bread on the table, to be able to identify ourselves with other groups, to tell you who I am compared to that. Oh, I'm not a Ford, I'm a Buick. That's what the hat is. That's what the function is. That's what the job is. But inside, underneath, all that we have is us. Us. All of us are just us. And I want you to tell me what your word is that equals happy. So the third group I'm reaching out to, which I will be doing this Sunday, so there goes the surprise, is the public. How do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 at any given time in the day? How do you feel? First question. Would you like to feel better? Second question. When would you like to start? Third question. Fourth question. How would it look to you? Fifth question. How much time can you commit? Those are the questions I'm going to ask and answer when I do my quick 5-minute surprise Sunday video, when I'm talking to everyone, every person, every single little heartbeat that is connected to me in those 5 minutes. Because the thing is, you cannot begin a program until you know what is missing. You cannot begin to change and improve until you know what is lacking. You cannot begin to say how you want to feel until you know how you do feel. What I bring that no one else can and no one else does is I am your litmus test. I give you the opportunity for this unique and rare diagnostic. You can't do a self-diagnostic. You're standing too close. These programs that say self this, self that, self the other, it's not teaching anybody how and why it works. You need guidance. You need a mentor. Everything we learn by observing, by copying, by doing, and then making our own. So all these people who say, here, use this quiz, here, use this notebook, here, use this, they're forgetting the first 5 steps. Everyone forgets the first 5 steps. And I wrote this down this morning. It made me laugh really loud. I said, so if we do a diagnostic step, Abby's diagnostic step, all right? It goes like this. Are you okay? And the answer is, compared to what? This is the problem. You have this. No, I don't. Oh, maybe I do. What does it look like? Nobody tells you. They tell you how it looks to them. The mentor, the motivator, the guide, the guru, the wise creature who walks on hot coals. Imagine what his house looks like. They don't ask you how you feel. They tell you how they feel. They tell you how everybody feels. But you're not everybody. You're you. I know that because I'm me. And I look around at other people and I think, are they listening to them? What is that? Did somebody bump their head this morning? Because I have never fit in. I have never been like everybody else. I've never been anywhere long enough to figure out what everybody else is doing. I just stand there thinking, I have no idea what that is. I hope it's not contagious. And then we move again. So, how I want to wrap this up today for you and for those of you who just listened to me today and watched me today and didn't give me your word. So, but thank you guys for giving me the words. The self-diagnostic is not supposed to be done by you, by yourself. It's a guided exercise. You are nurtured through it by an expert who has seen so many ways that the question is incorrectly, unhelpfully asked and answered. You've heard these stories. People go, they get a checkup, they get a diagnosis, they're given something, it doesn't work. You know, a year later, 6 months, 20 minutes later, they discover that the diagnosis was wrong and they needed this instead. They're thinking, well, for heaven's sakes. Because most of the time, even the experts are too busy. They're not listening. They can see you, but they are not seeing you. They can hear you, but they're not finding out why you're saying what you're saying. That's what I do. If you want to put it into the slogan that I've been using since, wow, when did I start using it? 1985, officially. I am where to start before you start. The other way to say it was the way we said it on You Can't Do That on Television. This is the introduction to your opposites. I am the introduction to your opposites. And your opposite, your flip, is how you feel that's ho-hum. And how you feel that is, that's more like it. Alrighty then. So this is the mission. And those of you who tuned in today, who watched today, you are the first ones to hear what it is that I have been up to, that I am up to, what I am launching very soon. And when I say very soon, I mean in anticipation of September. And by the way, today is the 7th of August. So this is now rounding the corner and we're into the home stretch. And those of you who want to participate, and I've talked to Freddie about this before, we can do it in person if we're in Ottawa. We can do it via Zoom or whatever these different means are from a distance. We can do webinars. We can do training. We can do personal coaching. We can do long-term mentoring, monitoring, and polishing. These are the things that I have been doing since 1985. I have helped people change corporate brands, big corporate brands. I have helped incredibly rebellious, crazy entrepreneurs shift their focus and shift their gears. I have helped mentors and coaches rethink and get in alignment with their concept and their purpose. I have helped professionals, specific in industries, to get clarity. And I have helped people exactly like you and me find the joy, find the peace, the serenity, find our own personal definition of happy. And that's what we're launching. And I'm inviting you to join me. So with that said, it's a busy weekend ahead, lots of things on the go. Remember what I always say, these videos would be nothing without you. You mean everything. And I am grateful every day. So as I say goodbye for now until next Tuesday, I want you to do two things. I invite you to do two things. Be good to you. You deserve it. Whatever that looks like to you, be good to you. Give yourself permission to sit in, feel, breathe happy. And remember to hug your loved ones because they deserve it too. Thank you so much for watching. Tell your friends if you found this fascinating and fun and enlightening, and I will catch you next time.